Hello again. The Practical Animal channel is dedicated to the public understanding of conservation, aiming to inform early career conservationists about wildlife jobs they may have been unaware of. The Practical Animal channel does this by showcasing wildlife careers through interviews with professional conservationists. These are their stories. Today's guest is an expert on running a bird of prey centre. You can work with birds of prey by becoming a zookeeper, field biologist, academic, pest control technician, bird hazard mitigator at airports, or veterinarian. Miss Naomi Johns is manager at West of England Falconry. If the role of raptors in ecosystem conservation interests you, then listen until the end for research project ideas. I began by asking Naomi about her best bird of prey fact. Conservation is not for the squeamish, and neither is this video.
Bird of prey fact, please.
Oh, you sent me the interview questions yesterday, didn't you? And I should have thought about this. My favorite bird of prey fact. I'm really interested by vision and bird of prey vision, and particularly falcon vision. And I find it very interesting, sort of trying to explain vision in a way that the wider public can understand it. So I think perhaps one of my favorite things to talk about is how if a falcon was watching the TV next to you, they wouldn't see a moving picture. They'd just see a slow series of photographs progressing because their vision is that much more fast-paced.
What's the project that's on the website, Naomi? The new project, Biomagnification?
Yeah, so we started looking at the Biomagnification project in October of 2022, awareness raising and education, and also hopefully generating some valuable research opportunities for particularly university students. Looking at the implication of chemical pollution on ecosystems in general by looking at toxin levels of particular organic compounds in birds of prey.
Naomi, what's the most treasured possession in your hawking bag?
I saw that question. I thought that was a really lovely question. Definitely, I carry around with me one of my first hawking companion was a little musket, a sparrowhawk, which I flew for 7 years, and sadly he died at the beginning of this year. So in my hawking bag, I carry around his bell, which he wore, a Dave Noble bell, which he wore for most of his flying career. So I still have that with me. But perhaps also my hawking bag itself was one of my most treasured possessions. It was given to me by Diana Dermer Waters, and she used it up in the 50s and 60s in the moors in Scotland. And she had the goshawk crest painted on the front, which had worn away over time. So when she gave it to me, I repainted the goshawk on the front. So yeah, it's that bag itself is very special, and one that I hope to get many more years of use out of.
Naomi, where's the strangest place you've ever forgotten a dead day-old chick?
Too many places. Not day-old chick, actually, but I was training a young hawk. I think it might have been a buzzard. And I had a pouch of betchins, which were squirrel, just minced up into tiny little fingernail-sized pieces, which I put through the washing machine. So when I was hanging all of my clothes out to dry, I noticed that I had probably 30-odd little bits of squirrel meat all attached to my clothes. So it was not very fun having to pick those out and then do that all over again. So note to self, check your pockets before you do your clothes washing.
Why are birds of prey important?
Birds of prey are hugely valuable for our ecosystems, and there are many ecosystems that are what we call a keystone species. So individual species have a really significant impact on the wider food chain, which means essentially that the loss or massive increase of a certain species can have a huge knock-on implication for all the other species living in that biodiverse ecosystem. Birds of prey can almost end up being such as chemical regulators for a wider ecosystem because of the way that chemicals, toxins, nutrients, and certain molecules will move up a food chain in intensity from the lower trophic levels up to the higher ones. The birds of prey, who are many of which are long-lived as well, will build up quite high levels of those concentrations. So they become almost like regulators for a whole ecosystem, enabling us to assess how healthy a certain area is or how affected a certain area is. And lots of our native raptor species here and bird of prey species across the world are in decline now. So it's very much time of the essence to do what we can to support those species and critically the entire habitats on which they depend on.
Naomi, please can you describe your own connection with birds of prey?
I've been involved with birds of prey for my whole career. I started when I just turned 15. So they've been a really big, important part of my life, and all of the ups and downs which life brings and different events and challenges. Hawks have always been there and always been a part of what I do. And my life in many ways has always revolved around enabling me to live this life with hawks and do this job that I have, this pretty cool job. And you sort of get a different perspective, I think, on the world, looking through life almost from the hawk's perspective, and their world is irrelevant of many of the things that are going on in ours. And I think that sort of perspective is a great separation from normal life sometimes.
Naomi, what is the aim of the forthcoming bird of prey event?
Yeah, so we are hosting for the first time British Bird of Prey Day here at the centre on this coming Saturday. I know when this comes out, it'll have finished a few weeks ago, but British Bird of Prey Day, the whole idea behind the event is not only to celebrate native raptors, to engage our local communities and further afield with the wildlife that we see on our doorstep, but also to bring conservationists, falconers, members of the public, enthusiasts, those involved with anything from sustainable gardening, sustainable arts, bringing all of these people together, united under one roof, essentially. We've got the RSPB, we've got the Wildlife Trusts, we've got some great local businesses, artists, we've got lots of the BFC, the British Falconers Club coming down, and of course we'll be here flying our teams of resident native species. And the idea is bringing all of these people together to actually unite us in what is the same mission that we're all working towards, is preserving birds of prey, preserving wildlife, preserving all avian species and mammalian species out in the wild, and how we can enable us to do that together. And I think that concept of cooperation, sharing ideas and working together is really, really important to me, really important to our team here, and really important to our ethos and what we're trying to achieve.
Which is the rarest British bird of prey, Naomi, and how is it doing? Is it increasing or decreasing?
Is the Hen Harrier. The big area of work that we look at is, with the resources we have now and the connections we have at the moment, is looking at our local native populations. And I think for me, and what we're looking to achieve to do, there's a much greater benefit for us at looking at preserving ecosystems, and not in a general way, but through looking at birds of prey as opposed to focusing on one specific species. This year has been a really challenging year for a lot of our native cavity nesting species, like tawny owls, kestrels, barn owls, and the like, largely due to climatic differences, which has had a big result on the availability of prey species which they depend on. So when you look at factors like that, it's very rarely that just one species is targeted or affected. That being said, there are still very much high-risk species like the Hen Harrier. There's so much that everybody can do looking at the wider picture and how species as a whole are being affected.
How do you deal with stress, Naomi? Do you fly a bird?
Sometimes I have to do the opposite. I do love what I do and I love working with the birds, but I think for me to be able to work at my best and to give them the best version of myself, I need to not be stressed and not be feeling the pressure all the time, so which is easier said than done. So I'm trying to really work on making sure I have a great balance outside of work, because it always will be intense, but making sure that you can find yourself and do things which are completely different to what you're doing with the birds is really important. So when you come back to it, that you're focused and your mind's in the right place to deliver 100%.
Naomi, when you have to approach a group of people or an individual representative of an organization, which could be a slightly averse conversation potentially, when you need that touch of diplomacy, how do you handle such a situation like that?
Good question. I think I just try to just be myself and just be a genuinely honest person. So I think ultimately, if you're doing something for the right reasons, with the right motivations, the right intentions, most genuine people will just see you as another genuine person who's just trying to do something very good. And I've never had that cause problems for me in the past. And I think if it does cause problems for you, then you know that the problem doesn't lie with you. It lies with whoever you're trying to deal with. So passion in combination with willingness to learn and willingness to listen to others will take you very far.
Naomi, do you think it's increasingly hard for volunteers to get voluntary positions at bird of prey centres?
I think with anything, there's a degree of luck. There's a degree of luck as to are you in the right place at the right time? And does what you're looking for fit what the organisation is looking for? I think there are many bird of prey centres in the UK now, and quite a small percentage of them are really, really good places where you can develop a great skill in the right way. Over 70% of the volunteer force that we have had through our doors over the last 5 years have been under the age of 25. How can you tell who is good, who is not? And then even if you have established who is good, the very best organisations don't tend to have a really easy walk through the door, get started. Sometimes you do if you get in the right place and you make the inquiry at the right time and the organisation's hiring new volunteers, then straight in you go. After a couple of interviews, you're in. We now have an interview process for any volunteer that wants to join the bird team, and an induction and a 6-week trial period. So in that sense, it makes it a little bit more challenging, you could say. And I don't want to say less accessible, because the position's accessible to anyone so long as they have the right attitude to do well. If you are going through those hurdles, then it means that you're probably doing it for the right organisation, because it shows that they genuinely care about the people they have representing them, and they genuinely care about you as well, because once as a volunteer joins our team, we have every intention for them to stay with us for as long as they want to, and they're enrolled into our continued professional development plan as well, which my colleague Kate has created, which gives people the opportunity to work through a structured plan developing their skills, whether then they want to go into a career working with animals, or whether they want to fly their own bird, or whether they're just doing it for fun but want to be able to do it in the best way possible. That CPD program enables them to go quite far. I would never say it's difficult. If you want it hard enough and you're willing to maybe move around a few obstacles in your life to get there, you can do it. And you might have to wait a while, you might have to hassle people with emails, you might have to work out some travel complications, you might have to work in the coldest and wettest and windiest and horriblest part of the year. But if you want it bad enough, then you'll have it. And every single person here who's progressed from volunteering to employment has had to want it and had to really work for it. And that is in many ways unfair, because in most of the working world, you wouldn't expect somebody to have to work that hard, that long, and for free for that long to get a paid position, but it is just so competitive.
That's great that you've got a CPD program.
Yeah.
Wow, that's quite unique, I imagine.
Yeah, we really, we really value our volunteer team, and we really want to make sure that they're practicing to the highest standards. And I want to make sure that the standards that we're implementing at the top are carried out throughout the whole organisation. And of course, it gives them that great sense of achievement and progression as well. So it's worked really well. I can't take any credit for it at all, because my colleague has done all the work, but she's created it, implemented it, and monitors it now. So yeah, it's fantastic.
Naomi, what are good questions that new entrants into the bird of prey industry can ask at interview?
I would say there's never a bad question, just ask as many as you like. You can't ask a bad question, or you can't ask a wrong question.
Naomi, what skills are new entrants in the future entering the raptor industry going to need?
Some of the most important, probably the most important skill or attitude that you should take forward is self-evaluation. You've got to be prepared to be constantly looking at yourself and looking for improvement. every single day, and to be not too critical on yourself, but always open for criticism, either from yourself or from others, because if you don't improve, and you could be top of your game. And you could be top of your game in 2005, but it's now 2023. A lot has changed in that time in terms of animal welfare. Animal welfare moves fast, so you need to be willing to change, modify, progress, learn every single step of your career. And I would also say teamwork is really important as well. Learning the value of teamwork, delegation, and actually maximizing that opportunity. And that's something that I have really had to work on myself, and learning that actually there's a lot of benefit from learning how your team can best operate, as opposed to just trying to do everything yourself, or how you can best cooperate with other people. And then finally, I would say balance is really important as well, actually, because I think there can be a big ethos, and I think if you'd asked me that question 3 years ago, I'd have said hard work is really important. You need to put your head down, you need to make sure you're doing this, that, and the other. But now I would say that maintaining balance in your life, even though this is a tough career, you're never going to get paid very much. You're always going to have to work hard. You'll often have to do things in your spare time that won't be paid for. And making sure you can hold on to a balanced life is really valuable, because you need to be on top of your mental game as well as your physical game to be able to deliver to your higher standards. So yeah, I'd say balance.
Can you suggest a dissertation topic, please, for raptor biology undergraduates?
If you're interested, hit me up, because we're looking for undergraduates at the moment who would be interested in studying some realms of work for our biomagnification project. That's our biggest focus area at the moment. So yeah, find my email address and drop me a line.
That's brilliant. How can potential students contact you, Naomi?
Drop me an email or phone call, and we'll go from there.
Okay, fantastic. What's the email address, Naomi, please?
info@woef.org.uk.
Fantastic. Naomi, is there anything that you'd like to add?
I think we've had a pretty comprehensive chat, actually. There's nothing that springs to mind, but if anyone has any questions, then feel free to email them to that address as well.
Naomi, you are the centre manager at West of England Falconry. Thank you so much for being on the Practical Animal channel. Naomi Johns.
Thank you.